Hey, what's up, everybody? We are back again, and today I will once again be talking about the Suicide Boys. Now, I'm not going to lie to you guys, I was actually planning to take a little bit of a break from covering the entire G59 orbit, not because I'm no longer a fan of the label or the artist on it. If anything, I'm actually becoming a bigger fan of many of these artists, but more so because I don't want my content to only be boxed into one side of the underground. I mean, I know I've talked a lot about dark trap and even the dirty word trap metal, which I hate saying, but I want to expand outward. I mean, after all, there's a giant, beautiful underground scene with thousands and thousands of artists who never get any exposure, people who are right on the cusp of breaking through but can't do so because they never get talked about in the way that they should. And here I am talking about the Suicide Boys once again. But let me tell you, this time I actually have a pretty good reason. Because for the third time in only about a year, they have once again found themselves in a pretty big controversy. But this time it feels a little bit different than before, because it really feels like they're splitting their entire fan base into two different factions. Now, yes, this has been going on for a pretty long time, ever since 2020 when they blew up with their first TikTok hit. As well, yes, they were a pretty big group within the underground prior to 2019. After they ended up getting a song on TikTok that really went viral, a bunch of new generation fans would come in, basically outnumbering that prior fan base, and making many of those people who have been there since the very beginning feel unheard and even a little bit disrespected. And it's not like they haven't made themselves known. I mean, they've definitely had their voices heard all over the internet. Every time somebody posts something about the Suicide Boys, there'll be at least a couple comments of people saying that they sold out and that the tickets are too expensive and that grade A sucks now and that they don't fuck with the people that they used to fuck with back in the day. And while a lot of this comes off as whining and bitching to the broader audience, you do have to admit that every once in a while they actually have somewhat of a good point. When it comes to this recent controversy, I definitely think they have a pretty good point. But before I can explain why they have a good point, I actually have to explain what's going on. And for those of you who don't know, only a couple of days ago at the time that I'm recording this video, the boys actually ended up settling a massive $6 million lawsuit with Juicy J from 36 Mafia. Now, I really hope I don't have to explain who 36 Mafia is. After all, they're definitely one of, if not the most influential underground act of all time, with them basically pioneering that entire Memphis style, and if not pioneering it, at least making it mainstream. Now, this collective is comprised of quite a few different members, but for today's video, you really only have to be aware of three of them, being the aforementioned Juicy J, DJ Paul, and Lord Infamous, who, yes, technically ended up leaving the group in 2006, but would return and reunite with the members in 2013. As it was only Juicy J and DJ Paul who were suing the boys, and the reason that they were suing them comes down to one simple term that basically every underground fan is aware of, being samples. Now, I don't really think I need to explain what samples are, as after all, even mainstream artists now use them pretty prominently, but basically it's when you take an old song or even a new song from a different artist and you take a piece of it, kind of reinterpolate it into a beat or maybe some sort of vocal hook and make your own thing out of it. It's distinct from being a remix because a remix is when you take somebody's entire beat and then rap your own verses over it, whereas with a sample, you're kind of taking a portion of a beat and then mixing it into your own unique thing. Although many people are pretty liberal when it comes to their uses of other people's work. But the reason that mainstream artists like Coil Ray are able to get away with remixing What Is Love or that lady who remixed the I'm Blue Ba Ba Dee Ba 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 song is because they have labels behind them who are able to talk to the original creators. They end up signing a deal saying, yes, you can use my song and reinterpolate it. I'll make a certain percentage off of it, and then you can make your money. But when it comes to the underground scene, and especially the early SoundCloud scene, many of the artists within it were dead broke and only making music because it was something fun to do. So they weren't really going out of their way to clear samples with the bigger artist, as even if they wanted to, they wouldn't be able to because they didn't have the money. But for the most part, people in the actual industry didn't really care about this happening, as first of all, they probably weren't aware of it, seeing as how niche and small SoundCloud was at the time, and secondly, because there wasn't really a whole lot of money to make off of SoundCloud at the time. Unless you ended up getting an absolutely massive song with millions and millions of plays, you probably weren't going to make much more than $2,000. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure many mainstream artists would not be above taking away rent money from struggling artists on SoundCloud, but at the time it didn't really seem worth it. Nobody thought that SoundCloud was ever going to rival actual mainstream music, and it kind of just felt like a bunch of weird internet kids making weird music that interpolated the music that they liked when they were growing up, and nobody really cared all that much about it. Many artists like Lil Peep would famously sample many different emo rock bands. You have Lil Tracy, and of course, the Suicide Boys were also doing the same. However, right off the bat, things are a little bit weird considering the fact that before the Suicide Boys were ever formed up, Scrim actually had an official producing label deal with an actual major label. And during this time that he was producing for mainstream artists in the industry, he actually ended up working with 3 6 Mafia a little bit, meaning that he was actually able to get the secret sauce right from the source. But at the time, he was under contract. He wasn't allowed to make beats for anybody who wasn't signed to the same label as him. And with him being a pretty small name DJ at the time, I don't think anybody was really worried that he was going to run off with the sound. Although, as you already know, he would end up linking up with his cousin around 2013, creating the Gray 59 Collective, and started making music under the Suicide Boys name. Almost immediately, they would start sampling many of their favorite acts, but they wouldn't really run into issues until around 2016, when they ended up putting out one of their first real breakthrough tracks called Antarctica. Now, this track would go on to do really well for the boys, gaining millions of views on YouTube alone and becoming one of their most popular songs every time they performed live, although the issue with it is that it had a sample. Although calling this track sampled is a little bit of a weird use of the term, because they didn't really sample anything, they straight up took the beat from another artist and then rapped over it. With the original beat coming from a track from a pretty well-known DJ named deadmau5, the track was called I Remember, and if you listen to the two of them side by side, you can pretty well tell that the boys did basically nothing to it besides slightly slowing it down so they could rap over it. And because of that, deadmau5 wasn't very happy with the song blowing up the way that it did. He would end up sending them a cease and desist in 2016, which doesn't really mean that you're in any sort of legal trouble. It simply means that a company is telling you to stop what you're doing, because if you continue to do so, they're going to sue your ass. So, of course, with the Suicide Boys still being pretty underground and not really having a lot of money, they had no other choice but to take the track down. And of course, many of their fans were very upset about this, as after all, it was one of their most popular songs, and it felt like the big industry maniac was coming after the small little underground group and attacking them for no reason, with him even going on the H3 podcast to talk about the entire thing.
Nobody go through a lawsuit, goddammit.
No, I wouldn't wish it on anyone, and I don't proactively seek them out unless there is, something to be had. Like and there are. I've actually been in more lawsuits that weren't even fucking lawsuits that everyone seems to think there was. One being the Suicide Boys, some rap band from Atlanta, literally verbatim took a song of mine and rapped on it and then put it out. Like, didn't sell 1 million copies or whatever, and then they put it out. Now, all we did was send a C&D, which is common, saying,
don't use my
while
song.
We appreciate your effort,
Yeah.
I would prefer you not to monetize my work and take it off, right? And the internet freaked out. And I'm wondering now, okay, who is more stupid? Someone who takes someone else's work and raps on it and then just doesn't give me credit for it, publishes it, or the people that think that that's normal.
That's fine.
That's fine. Everyone's like, why did you sue them?
Well, yeah.
We didn't sue them. It's not worth.
And you
Right.
could
The
have
paper-
fucked their whole life up if you wanted to.
No. Well, yeah.
You could
Yeah. Sure. If I was
You didn't.
so bored, I mean, I'd have to be
Right.
incredibly bored.
Yeah.
But, it's just like literally a 1-page letter that says,
Please stop.
please stop.
Yeah.
And then that's it. And it's if they ignore that and they go, no, fuck you. And then they sell it on iTunes, then it's like, okay. Shit just got real.
Yeah.
And then it gets crazy. But it never gets to that point.
And at the time, basically everybody was taking the boys' side. It kind of felt like deadmau5 was punching down and taking money away from a little underground group who were barely making it by. I mean, the Suicide Boys weren't that big. You already have money, deadmau5. Why would you ever come after them and, take away that profit that they're finally making for themselves? As back in those early days of the SoundCloud scene, there was this real community aspect. It felt like all of the artists who were blowing up at the time were connected in one way or another, either through the internet or knowing each other in real life. And because of that, every time that something bad would happen to somebody in that community, the entire fan base of them and many other artists would want to fight back. It felt like you were attacking one of our own. We're the counterculture. You're the mainstream. We're supposed to tear you down. We're changing music forever. The people who are making music in our community actually care. You guys are sellouts and absolute monsters who only care about money. So if you try to attack one of our own, we're going to fight back even harder. Not to mention the fan base of the boys was already pretty prominent at the time, as after they ended up doing the No Jumper podcast and talking about how they worked a 9 to 5 job, their fan base would do everything that they could to make sure that they no longer had to work that type of job by buying albums, buying merch, and basically getting them enough money to live comfortably. And because of that, deadmau5 taking down Antarctica would really only make the song even bigger, with people seeking it out, re-uploading it, and while the boys weren't able to make any money off of it, which is pretty unfortunate, the track would become more legendary as the years went on. And luckily for them, by 2021, they had made enough money off of their music that they were able to sign a deal with deadmau5 to basically allow the track to go back up on streaming services, with him taking about 80% of the profits and the boys only taking 20%, but still, the track was back and they were able to monetize it. For when looking at the most recent lawsuit, we have to go back a year prior to 2020, as after all, that was the year that they really started to blow up. That was the year that their tracks went from getting a couple million streams on Spotify to hundreds of millions, which of course kind of shifted the whole culture around them sampling other people's works. I mean, after all, before you were simply putting out tracks on SoundCloud using our music, but not really making a whole lot of money off of it. Now you're one of the biggest acts in the entire world. You're making millions. I definitely want my piece of the pie. And when Juicy J ended up suing the boys in 2020 for $6 million after finding out that they had sampled their tracks over 35 times on multiple different albums, that's how many fans felt. They thought that Juicy J was simply trying to get his money after the fact, that he was kind of coming after the boys either through jealousy or because he didn't want to see them get bigger than him, which kind of led to this feeling of, okay, you can play with my toys, you can do whatever you want as long as you stay in your little small corner of the underground, but the second that you get bigger than me, the second that you outshine me, I'm going to be taking everything that I'm owed. And many people felt like Juicy J had allowed them to use those samples with the hopes that they would eventually get big enough to make some real profit and then come after his profits after there was something to take. Although, when you really look into it, I don't think that's the actual case. As the actual reason that he ended up coming after the boys financially is because he felt heavily disrespected by them. As at one point during 2018, they actually were friends. After all, the boys had always looked up to 3-6 Mafia, just like basically everybody else in the Dark Trap lane, and they would end up connecting and even working together that very same year. Now, the boys had already sampled him pretty heavily in the past, so at that point, they could have already been in trouble and probably could have gotten sued by him if he really wanted to, but he decided instead to make a handshake deal with them, basically saying, you help me out with some engineering on my next project, and you can use whatever sample you want, and we don't really have to talk about the money aspect of it, which isn't really the best thing to do when you're trying to be an actual professional musician. One thing you gotta realize is that handshakes never hold up in court, and just because somebody's your friend right now doesn't mean they're gonna be your friend in a couple years. It's always a good idea to get things in writing, it's always a good idea to sign contracts and make sure that all the business side of things are completely good and ready to go before you drop the music, because once that music's out in the world, there's no way to take it back, and if somebody decides that they want to switch up and take some money from you, you're gonna be kind of fucked if you don't have any sort of contract to protect you. But even still, he never decided to do so until Scrim decided to open his mouth, because there's actually a little known group that's associated with 3-6 Mafia called C-6, which is basically comprised of two members named Loco Dunnit and Little Infamous, with Loco Dunnit being the son of DJ Paul and Little Infamous, of course, being the son of Lord Infamous. If you didn't know, DJ Paul and Lord Infamous are actually brothers, so similarly to the same way that Ruby and Scrim are cousins, this group is similarly comprised of two cousins. And because they made similar types of music and because they had a pretty similar their backstory, they quickly became very big fans of the boys, leading them to want to go on tour with the boys sometime around 2018, which they ended up turning down, although there wasn't any hurt feelings at the time until later in 2018 when they ended up putting out an album called Suicide 6. Now, if you couldn't tell by the name, this entire project was comprised of a bunch of different samples from the boys, and while that seems kind of scummy and like they're stealing songs from them, this project was dropped on Dat Piff for free, so they weren't making any money off of it, and it was basically meant to be a tribute to a group that they loved, so no big deal. And in my opinion, I think it's pretty cool. I mean, you have 3 6 Mafia inspiring the Suicide Boys to start making music, with them heavily sampling the group because they were such big fans, and then they get big enough on their own to inspire somebody who's connected to 3 6 Mafia to then sample them on their own project. It's kind of like a full circle moment. But apparently Scrim didn't really feel the same way. Now, I think it's kind of important to note that there was kind of this behind the scenes beef going on between DJ Paul and the boys. Now, there's not really a whole lot of information about this, but from what I can tell, it mostly came down to the fact that Paul felt that the boys didn't pay respect. If you ask anybody from the Suicide Boy fan base, they're going to tell you the reason Paul doesn't like them is because he was jealous that they were so close to Juicy J. Whereas if you ask anybody from the 3 6 Mafia community, they're going to tell you the reason that DJ Paul didn't like them is because they never really showed respect to the group that helped them get to where they are, only using them to get to a higher level of fame before completely abandoning them. But it's hard to say who's right because once again, this whole beef never really spilled out online until Scrim ended up replying to a tweet that DJ Paul put out, with him of course promoting the release of this project on Twitter by saying, "My nephew, C2 new mixtape Suicide 6 drops today on Dat Piff, hosted by me, link in bio." And then Scrim replied to that by saying, "Y'all must be bored, man. Little Infamous was DM'd me the other day like a man and saying he ain't want to be in the middle of this. First a song, now a whole tape. Lol, Paul. You used to be one of my idols. Let me make my own music. Damn. And I mean, I learned to sample from you. Lol." Now I know we're lacking a little bit of context of why exactly they were mad at each other in the first place, but no matter what, I don't think that Scrim should have taken this private beef and made it public because while yes, it might have felt slightly disrespectful for C2 to post a project sampling you and having that connection to DJ Paul who you don't really fuck with, it's a free project. It's not making them any money, and while yes, they probably are trying to get your attention and rage bait you should probably ignore it because after all, you have 35 uncleared samples that you took from Juicy J, and if things ever go badly between you and him, he's gonna have a lot of ammunition to, well, take you to court. And it was around this time that the boys would start to get really sloppy with clearing samples, as they ended up calling DJ Paul and saying, "Hey, my lawyer's gonna hit you up in a week to see if everything's alright," but they never called him back.
Oh, well, I guess at one point you guys sampled Suicide Boys?
Yeah.
A mixtape.
Mixtape.
They made a mixtape called Suicide 6
Yeah.
Okay.
with Suicide Boys samples in it.
And I guess there was an issue?
Yeah, they got upset about it, which I didn't understand because they have never probably put out a song without sampling me. And I like them dudes, man. I'm a fan of their music.
Right. Well,
We got to talk about this new album with them uncleared samples on there, but I still love them.
You're saying there's some unclear samples on the new
But
album.
that's what I didn't get. I was like, I like Suicide Boys because I've been knowing them way before all this, what they out now and everything they doing. Before they got with, started talking to Juicy and doing all that, they gave that shot, they gave that chance to me. I talked to them. We talked about a lot of stuff, and we talked about doing a whole tape together. They used to talk to Coops, the nigga, I think. I think they was real cool with him. And I'm a fan of them, but I didn't understand why they got upset when C2 brought out a mixtape with their samples in it, a free mixtape now. A free mixtape. They got upset about a free mixtape of C2, now one mixtape, but then at the same time, one of their own inside guys sent me a list of maybe 40 songs that they sampled me on with 40 million views here, 50 there. And then on top of that, they bring out a Capitol Records album that's a straight remake of one of my songs off one of my last albums with me in it. Start off with me in it. Capitol Records now. That came out like a couple of months ago. I ain't got a phone call. I did get a phone call from somebody saying, hey, we're going to reach out to you and we're going to clear some samples through y'all. Is that cool? And I'm like, yeah, of course. I love Suicide Boys. Let's do it. I never got that call back. But the album came out with them samples in it.
And after this entire situation went down and he felt like Scrim had disrespected him, he decided it was time to get his money. And one thing to keep in mind about this entire situation is that DJ Paul would reveal on a DJ Vlad interview that the person who gave him the list of samples that the boys had taken from him was actually an insider who had worked with them in the past. So basically somebody that they knew in real life and actually worked with ended up betraying them and taking that list to Juicy J if he ever wanted to use it against them. Although at the time in 2019, he decided to sit on it and not really do anything with it. I mean, at this point, who really cares? They're sampling old tracks from back in the 90s. It's not like they're not showing respect, and it's not like they're going to continue to do it after they blow up. But then they would get massive in 2020 and continue to sample his music, even taking samples from his most recent project. So at this point, the disrespect had felt blatant. If only one of these situations had taken place, I doubt that Juicy J ever would have sued them, but with them continually disrespecting him and his family over and over again. And that's without even mentioning the fact that Lord Infamous has passed away, so sampling a dead man and then disrespecting his son for sampling you definitely is a pretty greasy thing to do. So yeah, in 2020, the lawsuit was filed and they would have to fight this case for 5 long years. Now, the boys would try to do everything they could to fight back, once again bringing up that handshake deal that they had with him, although once again that wasn't going to stand up in court because they were going to say, yeah, he told us we could do it, and he's going to say, no, I didn't, so that's not really going to get anywhere without a written consent. And while once again for the most part everybody was on the boys' side, feeling like 3-6 Mafia was washed up and done out, and now they were trying to come at that new talent for a little bit of extra money, as the years went on, people would start to believe in their cause less and less, as the boys would begin to get richer and richer and start to neglect their OG fans, with them putting ticket prices up, with them cashing out on massive chains, and basically doing everything that they said they never would when they were in the underground. And because of that, more and more people would start to feel disenfranchised by them, which basically brings us up to the modern day of 2025. When Scrim decided to post a story that absolutely lit the entire fan base on fire, as he would take to his story saying, fuck you if you ever sample snitched, you bitches have cost us millions and constant legal trouble, with people immediately reacting negatively to this by saying, what the fuck, Scrim, why are you blaming us for you not clearing samples? It's not our fault that you decided to not do paperwork, it's not our fault that you decided to take other people's music without ever talking to them. And of course, many fans would start to talk about the whole controversy of them going after people who sold fake merch at Grey Day and basically suing and trying to get them arrested for doing so, saying, hey, you snitched on other people for taking your work and now you're mad that people are doing the same to you. Kind of hypocritical. Now, I had heard about this controversy time and time again, but never really understood the gravity of it because it kind of felt like people were bitching for no reason. It's basically everybody who I would talk to about it would say, oh, they sold out, they only care about money, how are they going to come after their own fans for trying to make fake merch? But if somebody was taking money out of your pockets and doing so right in front of your face, wouldn't you think you'd want to come after them too? But the real reason that I think this entire thing is so scummy is because Scrim would lie about it. Now, I'm not exactly sure what specifically he's responding to here, but he is responding to the entire situation about coming after the merch people by saying, this person needs to get a life besides making politics their personality. I fucking hate the government. I hate the state. I hate them all. P.S. We had nothing to do with the cop shit. If people break the law and get caught, it ain't on us. We ain't sheriffs, laugh my ass off. Only for fans to immediately dig up the lawsuit saying that, yeah, they actually were the people who came after these merch sellers. They did call the cops. So while I don't care that they called the cops on people who were counterfeiting their merchandise, lying about it is definitely pretty dumb. Not to mention the whole we don't care about politics thing. You guys definitely do. Everybody knows that the boys are mega. Once again, I don't give a fuck if they support Trump or not, but I don't know why they feel the need to constantly flip-flop on it. Either support him with your whole heart or just don't support him at all, or just don't talk about politics. Don't be like, I don't care about politics, but then, hey, look at this political thing. It's kind of like, Okay, dude. And I'm not gonna lie, I think I was kind of wrong about that situation because while previously I didn't really care, with the hypocrisy factored in, yeah, you guys are right. He's definitely being a little bit disingenuous here. First of all, lying and then blaming people for something that he's doing as well. But it's okay because Scrim would come back to respond to the entire situation by leaving a comment saying, "Y'all missing the point now. It's not a problem, but before we didn't have a pot to piss in. We spent 5 years and every dollar we made clearing shit and in lawsuits. We just trying to make art. Hip hop was made off of sampling, and now the same people that made their living sampling people won't even clear shit for us. I'm gonna need to go on a podcast one day to break this all down and give you all the truth. Anyone that wants to sample us, go ahead." Which is complete bullshit because when they sampled you, you came after C to 6. So you've shown in the past that you don't want people to sample you, and now you're crying that nobody would clear your samples, but you didn't give a fuck. You took advantage of the kindness that he was giving to you, thinking that he would never retaliate while you were constantly disrespecting him and people in his camp. I mean, at this point, I really think Scrim just needs to keep his mouth shut. I mean, I'm not trying to say that he shouldn't have a voice or talk about things that annoy him, but he's constantly on Twitter. He's constantly on Instagram. He's always fighting with the fan base. I get it. Certain portions of your fan base are really annoying. They want you to go back to drugs. They never seem happy for you, but you need to realize that that's a very small minority of the entire base that you built up. I am not one of those people who will say we made the right person famous because after all, the boys put in a fuck ton of work to get to where they are now. I would never take that away from that. They worked tooth and nail to get to the size that they're at now. But for you to constantly piss in your fan base's face time and time again because the most vocal minority is constantly badgering you is kind of stupid. I mean, dude, you got millions, you got a wife, you're happy now, you're sober. Why don't you enjoy the life that you built for yourself? I mean, Scrim has always been the type to constantly bitch on Twitter, but that was back when he was on drugs. You would have thought after he got sober, he would become a little bit happier and let all of that controversy and backlash kind of wash over him. I mean, every big artist is going to get shit for things that they don't deserve. But at this point, you're kind of digging yourself into a hole. You ended up disrespecting somebody who was giving you samples for free, and then they bit back with the lawsuit. And then when that lawsuit finally caught up to you and you realized that you couldn't win, you then attack your fan base who had no part of that whatsoever. And it's not like any of this is all that big of a deal. It's mostly online bullshit. But when you're constantly playing into that, you're gonna get more controversy and eventually it's gonna bite you in the butt, which it already has. You lost $6 million because of a tweet. A simple fucking tweet that you didn't need to put out. You had your feelings hurt, you attacked somebody, and now you lost more money than I'll ever see in my entire life. This whole crybaby millionaire stick that he's constantly running with is not working. I mean, I can empathize with him. I understand what he's going through. It's hard to have a lot of attention online, and not to mention he has way more attention than I'll probably ever have, so I will never be able to understand the true nature of that type of backlash. But at the same time, you simply gotta log off. Take a step back, take a breath of fresh air, play with that $1 million chain that you bought and look at your giant property and see that you're all right. You're fine. Your life is great. Things are going well. I mean, look at Ruby. He barely has anything to say about any of this and he seems way more happy than Scrim is. All you really have to do is stop feeding into that negative part of your fan base, and while they probably will continue to bitch for years to come, they're only going to exist in a very small echo chamber. But by you constantly feeding into them, you're going to make them bigger, and every time you try to take a swipe at them, you're only going to disenfranchise more fans, and eventually you're going to have a very big portion of your fan base who is angry with you, not because they think you sold out, but because you're constantly pissing in their eyeballs. Once again, I'm not coming at Scrim. It's not like I want him to be canceled. It's not like I want him taken down. I simply think that if I was his friend, I would say, Scrim, put the phone down. Man, fuck them kids. Look at these trees. Look at these fine bitches. Life is good. Man, you're right. Damn right I'm right. I can't remember a damn time that I was wrong. That's what you gotta do. That's what you gotta do, Scrim, and I think you'll be fine. Negativity only attracts more negativity, and positivity only attracts more positivity, and if losing $6 million isn't enough of a wake-up call to finally get you out of this mindset, then I don't know what will be. Oh yeah, and quickly, it's important to mention that they ended up settling the lawsuit, basically meaning that they came to terms with him without taking it to court. They have been fighting it for 5 years, but I guess they finally decided to give up. Some headlines have been saying that they settled for $6 million, although I don't think that that's actually true, as they were initially suing for $6 million, and usually a settlement is somewhere in the middle where both parties feel comfortable, like, okay, I'm not going to give you the full thing, thing, but I'll give you 3 mil to leave me alone and stop wasting all of my money on legal fees. So if they really gave him 6 million, it's not really a settlement. They basically gave him everything he wanted. So either they were going to lose dramatically in court or somebody online is lying. And I think it's probably the latter. But with all of that said, I have one unrelated question for everybody in the comments. For all of you in the Suicide Boy fan base who are upset that he ended up linking up with Drake, does it come down to the fact that it feels like they sold out by linking with the most mainstream artist in the world, or is it because the allegations that Drake has? I've seen people talk about both aspects of it, but I'm kind of interested to see people's real, fully fleshed out opinions on why they don't like that Drake ended up linking up with the Suicide Boys. It doesn't really matter if you agree on one side or the other, or if you have a completely different opinion, let me know in the comments below, because honestly, I really want to see what people think. And with that said, shout out to the G59 community. I think the next video is probably going to be once again on a newer rapper. Definitely let me know who you want to see in the comments below. Subscribe if you enjoyed the channel, like the video, blah, blah, blah. Hype points, hype points. And with all of that said, I will see you in the next one. We'll be back soon. See you then. Peace out. Bye. Knife Gang. Delete this gang.